be there. Yes. I want to challenge these leaders. Yes. I will listen to them. That will be very important. And that's why we're working together. We'll have these 338 candidates, and I'll be part of the debate. And that would be fun. Because in a debate, usually, like the Conservative, if you try to find the platform of the Conservative Party of Canada, you won't be able to find it because they're too busy of doing polling and survey. They don't know what they believe in, so they have to do a lot of pollings. And after that, the worst is after that, when they have an idea, after doing a lot of pollings and focus group, now they must find how to sell that to Canadians. So they're doing more focus group to be able to use the right words to sell their ideas. So they're very busy to do that. There's no conviction there. They will tell you what you want to hear without any conviction and without any principle. And actually, that's what Andrew Scheer said. He did an interview with the Toronto Sun last November. After that interview, I called the Toronto Sun. I said, I want to do an interview also with you. I have a lot of ideas. I was not able, they didn't invite me, but that's okay. But that being said, he did an interview, and Andrew said, right now, the Conservative Party of Canada, and you'll be able to Google it and find it, the Conservative Party of Canada, it's a centrist, pragmatic political party with lots of ideas for lots of people. So what that is telling me? No ideas, no principle. It will try to please everybody, and we know when you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody. So no conviction, no principle, no vision for the future of our country. Just based on pollings and focus group, and so that's why I decided in August to leave the Conservative Party of Canada when I said they're intellectually and morally corrupt, and that's true. They're not working for you guys. They're working just to be in government, and when they will be in government, if they're in government, they won't have any courage to do the reform. We need to speak about what we believe before the election, during the election, and after the election, if you want to have the mandate to do the reform that needs to be done in this country. And after that, when you're in government, if there are protests in Ottawa, that's okay, because you have the mandate. And you can go out there and tell them, you can protest, you can do all your things, but I spoke about that before the election, I spoke about it during the election, and now we have the mandate to do that. And we can make a big difference. People are asking me, Maxime, yes, that's good what you're telling us, but you will devise the right. Because of you, Justin Trudeau will win. So, my answer to that, first of all, there's no free, conservative, free market political party anymore. Andrew Scheer is a centrist party, and he said that. So I cannot divide the right. There's no right now. So we're the only political party to speak about the real conservative free market values. And also, we can make a huge difference. I like to speak about Macron in France. He was a socialist 11 months before the presidential election. As you know, I'm not a socialist. He was a socialist 11 months before the presidential election. And he quit the Socialist Party, decided to create his own party, and 11 months later, he's now the president of France. So everything can happen. When you have rally in Edmonton, and in Calgary we had a big rally also a couple of months ago, and there's 400, 500 people coming at a rally, listening, a politician from Quebec with a strong accent, speaking about real conservative values, something is happening in this country. we can make a huge difference. We can be in government, we can be the official opposition, we can have the balance of power without no compromise with our ideas. We are showing to these traditional political parties that there's another way to do politics, another way that is in line with our principle, and yes, we can win election being ourselves, answering the questions, and having the real debate that need to be done in this country. That's our plan. So, as you know, we have a strong economic platform on lower taxes. It's having a flat tax on business, no more corporate welfare, and actually the conservative and the liberal, they still believe in corporate welfare. So that's why we have that big scandal in Ottawa also. When you have a huge government in Ottawa, when you have a government that is giving subsidies and huge contracts and giving privilege with the legislation framework, doing things that the conservative want to do, giving subsidies, the liberal they're doing right now, giving privilege to some corporation. That's the big fat government. We must end that. And the way to end that, we have the solution, is to end corporate welfare. We can save $5 billion there, so no more subsidies to businesses. It is not the role of the government to find the winners and the losers. That will be you, that will be the consumers, that will be the free market. If you want to support a corporation or a business, you'll vote with your money, you'll buy their goods or not. So that's the beauty of the free markets. It's the freedom to choose. I want you to have the freedom to choose what you want to do with your own money. So yes, we will save $5 billion ending corporate welfare, but with that money, we'll be able to lower taxes to every single entrepreneur in this country with a flat tax of 10%. We'll be able also to abolish the capital gains tax in this country. And we want also at the same time to lower taxes to you, to Canadians. But we don't want to put that on the deficit. It's too easy to lower taxes, and after that, that will be the future generation that will pay for that, and you increase the deficit. So if you want to do that, we're fiscally responsible. We must to find some money somewhere to be able to lower your taxes. And we have a lot of ideas for that. We have a lot of ideas. You said about the CBC. I like the CBC. I want the CBC to be like the PBS. I want them to be able to find money and to have money from their viewers. That's $1.3 billion that we can save, not in one shot. The budget will go down and we'll let the CBC to find more money from their viewers. Because if they're good, they'll be able to find money from their viewers. We don't want the media to be dependent from the government. The media must be independent from the government. So we can find money also in foreign aid. Trudeau government will send $2.3 billion to Africa to fight climate change. Do you really believe that the dictatorship in Africa will use the money to fight climate change? Do you really believe that? It is not the role of the federal government to fight climate change in Africa. It is not the role of the federal government to build roads in Africa. It is not the role of the federal government to give money to an infrastructure bank in Asia managed by China. It is not our role. So we can save $4 billion there. But it is our role. But it is our role to help other countries when they have a humanitarian crisis. It is our role to be there when there's an environmental disaster. Yes, we'll be there. But we won't be there to build roads or fight climate change, and we can save a lot of money. We can save some money also at the UN. I said that the UN... The UN is a dysfunctional organization. Why it is a dysfunctional organization? Because you just have to look at their Human Rights Committee. Who is sitting on the Human Rights Committee? North Korea, Cuba, and all these communist countries. So, it's a joke. Would be part of the UN, yes, we'll be part of the UN, but we'll cut some budget that is going to these kind of committees like that, so we can save money over there. But we don't want the UN to impose to us their vision on immigration. No. So that's why I said no compact on immigration. I said that a couple of months ago, before everybody. So the conservative and Indouché did a lot of polling. And what Maxime is saying, it's very popular. So they decided to, 4 days before Justin Trudeau signed that compact, to be out there against the compact on migration. So it's okay. They have the right policy on that, but we did force them to have the right policy, and we spoke by conviction, and they're not doing that by conviction. So maybe, if they're in government, they won't do it because there's no conviction there. So our role is to be sure that we will have, in the future, a sustainable immigration system. So what we can do for being sure to have the sustainable immigration system that we want. First of all, we must stop what's happening in my own province in Quebec. People, refugees that are crossing the border in Quebec. I think when a person is coming from the state of New York, I don't think their life is in danger. It is not in danger. We want to help the real refugees. Yes, that's okay, that are waiting in a refugees camp in other countries, but not the fake refugees. And I'm not the only one who's saying that. The Department of Immigration, supposed to be neutral, said that, I think 2 months ago, at least 40% of them who are crossing the border in Quebec, 40% of them will have to be deported in 3 years from now because they're not real refugees. So we must stop that as soon as possible, and we must be sure that people who are coming to our country share our Canadian values like they did in the past. I don't want us to have the challenges that they're having in Europe, in France, in Belgium, with the integration of their immigrants. In England too, yes. I don't want that. So what I want our country to be like that in 20 years, in 50 years. So for that, we need to question right now. We need to question right now what we're doing in the immigration file. And that's why we want to have fewer immigrants. We want to go back to what the average that we had under Stephen Harper, 250,000 a year or less, because our immigrants will come, and they will come because we want more economic immigrants if we need it. If the private sector and the economy in Canada, we don't need so many economic immigrants, we'll have fewer than 250,000 a year. So that's important. But Justin Trudeau, the Liberal government, they will increase by 40% the immigrants coming to our country next year, because from 250,000 a year, it will be 350 a year in a year from now. So 100,000 more immigrants. But what I know, I'm not doing any polling, but I can read the poll, and 6% of Canadians, only 6% of Canadians are ready for having more immigrants in our country, and 49% are saying we want fewer immigrants. So Justin Trudeau is not working for us Canadians with that policy. And then we share that's the same. It's always more and more and more. So for us, it is fewer, with more economic immigrant in the ratio, less refugees and less reunification of family. We want people who will come here because they will have a job, because the private sector, if they are not able to find a Canadians for that job, they will have to prove that. If they're not able, they will have the right to go and find immigrants to do that function and to come here in Canada. I prefer somebody that will come in Canada with a job because it's easier for that person to be part of our society. It's easier for that person to participate in our society. So that's why we need to have fewer immigrants and in the ratio more economic immigrant if the private sector need it. If they don't, it will have less economic immigrant. That's it. You know, what's happening right now, people, if we don't tackle that, if we don't speak about that, we have the risk to be like in UK, like in France, and having this debate, and I don't want that. I'm proud to be Canadians, and this country has been built by Anglophone, Francophone, and First Nation, and after that by immigrants coming from Europe, and after that from immigrants coming from Asia, and these people came in Canada to share our Canadian values, a free market, individual freedom. So we want that in the near future. And that's all our platform, what I'm telling you, it's all based on these 4 principles. So, and people are telling me, Maxime, you know, are you a real political party because you didn't have any convention and your members were not able to have discussion on policy? I said, yes, we are a real political party, but we created that party different than when they created here in Western Canada, in Alberta, the Reform Party. So we created that party with ideas, and these ideas were very popular when I was running for the Conservative Party of Canada. So I said, you know, people like the principles, people like the ideas. If they like it, they can come and work with us. And so that's why we are able to attract people, because of these ideas. But yes, we are a real political party, and yes, we'll have a convention, and yes, we'll have discussion, and yes, we'll be able to have policy discussion. But we don't have time to do that before the election. It will be after the election. We're too busy to build this party, find the candidates, raising money, and you are coming to the PPC for that platform. But we will have maybe 3 subjects on the platform. One will be a relationship with the First Nation. I didn't have time to have a policy on that when I was running for the Conservative Party of Canada. We want to be sure that we'll have a kind of a property right on reserve. We want to be sure that we'll have a policy that at the end won't need the Indian Act. So I'm working on that, and you have a policy soon on that. We'll have also a policy on the environment. I think it's important, but not on climate change. Contrary to Justin Trudeau, that right now is hypocrite, because he's saying to Canadians, you know, he will impose a carbon tax of $20 a ton, and like that he will be able to achieve the Paris Accord targets. He won't. Elizabeth May told me that. She said he won't be able. He needs to impose a tax of $300 a ton to be able to achieve the Paris Accord target. So he won't be able to achieve the targets in the Paris Accord. He won't be able to save the world, but he's telling Canadians that he'll be able to do all that. So that's a lie. Andrew Scheer said, I don't believe in a carbon tax, but I believe in the Paris Accord. It's important. And actually, he did whip his MP. The first thing he did as a leader 2 years ago, whip the vote on his MP on the Paris Accord and asked them to vote for the Paris Accord. So he did that. He said, I believe in the Paris Accord, but I don't believe in the carbon tax. But, you know, we'll put some regulations and subsidies to businesses to fight climate change. So when the government imposes regulation on businesses, it's a cost for that business, and usually the private sector will transfer the cost to us consumers. So that's the position of Andrew Scheer. Our position, no carbon tax, no Paris Accord. That's it. No more English, because the beauty of that environment, it's a shared jurisdiction with provinces. So if the climate change, it is so important for Quebec, my own province, they will have policy on climate change, and they did. They had at the provincial level in Quebec a cap and trade. So I will let provinces decide what they want to do about climate change. So I won't interfere in their jurisdiction on that. But we'll have a policy on the environment that would be about clear lake, clear water, clear river, clear land, something that is tangible and we can do at the federal level. So, we want you to be able to fish in your rivers. We want you to be able to swim in your lake. There's a lot of things that we can do there, and so we are working on something. So that will be our platform on the environment. And also, I told you about where we can cut and when we can save money to lower your taxes by respecting the Constitution, not interfering into provincial jurisdiction, but also at the federal level, we're in charge of the national defense, the defense department. So that would be important to reinvest there. And we want to invest there to help our veterans, to help our Canadian forces, to have the right equipment. So yes, we will reinvest. That would be part of our first budget. A goal will be to spend 2% of the GDP in our defense. Now it's about 0.6% of our GDP. We won't be able to do that in the first budget, but that will be put in the first budget and we'll increase that every year. So yes, there's a role for the federal government there and we'll play that role. So we have a platform that is coherent, based on principle, and I think that I will have a lot of fun during the debates during the next year. So let's take some time for some questions, and we'll have yes, the first one here.
Just wanted to know, a lot of